Hi everyone! Welcome to Seaweave's tutorial. In the previous video, we have learned how to create a basic t-shirt style. If you haven't watched it, check it out to learn the basic steps. This time, we're going to show a complete workflow from importing a DXF file of your 2D pattern to producing a stand collar shirt style. Here is what you can create after watching this video. Let's get started! First of all, import the DXF file by clicking File on the menu bar, then Import. Open the DXF file of the pattern you want to simulate. You can also import the file by drag and drop upload. With the file opened, the pattern pieces for the shirt display in the 2D window. Now expand the 2D window by clicking the splitter in the middle to maximize the working area. To start with, let's clear the unnecessary markings on the pattern files. Don't forget to switch to the curve selection mode at the bottom right corner of the 2D window. Select the unnecessary marking, right-click, and choose Delete. After that, we can start completing the pattern pieces. As you can see, for most of the pattern pieces in this file, we only have half of the piece. Select the appropriate edge, right-click, and choose Unfold. A symmetrical copy is created to complete the piece. Since we're working on a shirt style, repeat the unfold steps for all the back and collar pieces only. For the front piece and the sleeve pieces, we have the mirror feature for them. Do a selection of the front and sleeve pieces, right-click, and choose Mirror. A mirror copy of the pattern pieces is created. Click to place them opposite to the original pieces. Now bring back the 3D window. Before we move on to locating the pattern pieces on the after, let's choose a suitable after from the default options in the after panel on the right-hand side. This time, since we're working on a mayo shirt style, let's use a mayo after. Since there are quite some details in the cuffs for a shirt style, let's use a T-pose after. You can also change the after color as you like. Select the front piece and the sleeve pieces. Since they are already on the after silhouette, simply right-click, choose Locate in 3D, then Front. The selected pieces now display in front of the after in the 3D window. Repeat the steps for the back pattern pieces. Drag them to the suitable locations on the after silhouette in the 2D window, and this time, choose Back under Locate in 3D. You can see the back pieces display at the back of the after in the 3D as well now. Let's bring the sleeve pieces closer to the after's arms. Expand the 3D window and go to the menu bar. Click Edit, then Quick Move. You may also activate this function by Shift key. Next, arrange the pattern according to the instructions on the top left corner. Define any 2 points on the sleeve piece and define the corresponding 2 points on the after's arm. Bend the sleeve piece to fit the after's arm by adjusting the form parameters on the Properties panel on the right. Or hold the Shift key and roll your mouse wheel up and down to adjust the x-axis value. Adjust the angle with the gizmo if necessary. Repeat the steps for another sleeve. Other than sleeves, some pattern pieces are not near the after yet. Bring the back yoke piece and collar pieces closer to the after's neck. Bend the collar stand piece by adjusting the x-axis value. Again, you can hold the Shift key and roll your mouse wheel up and down as a shortcut. With the gizmo, flip the collar piece. Also bend it by adjusting the x-axis value. Bring it closer to the collar stand piece. Meanwhile, let's hide the cuff and placket pieces until we work on them. Select the pattern pieces to hide, right-click, and to select Joint in Simulation. The cuff and placket pieces are then hidden in the 3D window. Now that the pattern pieces are well arranged around the avatar, let's start sewing. Click the Sewing button on the Action toolbar in the 2D window. To stitch 2 edges, simply click on them. Select one side edge of the sleeve piece and the other side of the same sleeve piece. Do the same for another sleeve. Here you can see that the stitches are upside down. If this scenario happens to you too, select the sewing lines, right-click, and choose Reverse. The stitches are now in order again. Let's continue stitching. Now switch to the multi-sewing function for seams that are consisted of multiple curves. Click to define your starting point on the front body piece, drag along the curve, click again to finish the seam. Then go to the corresponding edge on the back body piece. Again, click to define your starting point, drag along the curve, and click again to finish the seam. Do the same for the edge on the other front body piece as well. In the 3D window, the sewing lines display between the pattern pieces. Next, click one side of the shoulder top on the front body piece and the corresponding side on the shoulder top on the back yoke piece. Do the same for another side. Now, let's move on to the sleeves. Start with the armhole edge on the front body piece. Next, go to the corresponding edge on the back yoke and panel pieces. Then finally, the edge on the sleeve piece. Repeat the steps for another sleeve. This time, let's start with the sleeve piece. Remember that you need to stitch one edge on the sleeve piece with the edges of both front and back body pieces. And in this case, the back consists of a yoke piece and a panel piece. When it comes to the seam between the collar and the body, follow this order. First, the lower edge of the collar stand piece. Second, the neckline edge on one side of the front body piece. Then, the neckline edge on the back yoke piece. Finally, the neckline edge on the other side of the front piece. Then, let's go to the seam between the collar piece and the collar stand. Begin with the lower edge of the collar piece. Drag along to include all the curves. Do the same for the upper edge of the collar stand piece. Zoom in to make sure you have completed the whole seam. Before we move on to the cuffs, let's review whether the stitches are in order yet. Expand the 3D window. Go around the after in 360 degrees and arrange the pattern pieces accordingly. Go to the Properties panel on the right. Adjust the X-axis, Y-axis, and spiral values for the collar stand piece to make it a tight fit to the after's neck. Do the same for the collar piece. Use the gizmo to adjust the angle of the pattern piece. Click the play button for a better visualization if you'd like to make sure that the stitches are arranged as expected. Now let's work on the cuffs. First, bring the cuff pieces closer to the after's wrists with the quick move function as what you did for the sleeves. Define any 2 points on the cuff piece and define the corresponding 2 points on the after's wrist. Bend the cuff piece to fit the after's wrist by adjusting the deform parameters on the Properties panel on the right. Or hold the Shift key and roll your mouse wheel up and down to adjust the X-axis value. Adjust the angle with the gizmo if necessary. Repeat the steps for another cuff. After that, drag the placket piece closer to the sleeve. There are usually markings on the 2D pattern to indicate the location of the sleeve slit. Sew the placket edges to the markings of the slit on the sleeve piece accordingly. The next step is important. Click the base edge on the placket piece, go to the bottom edge of the sleeve piece, click and drag along the two edges to sew. Mind that there is a gap reserved for the slit. Then link the upper edge of the cuff piece. Please note that all the sewing edges are off the same direction. In this case, dragging from right to left. Play the simulation in 3D to check all the seams on the cuff and slit are in order. If this process brings you the expected result, repeat the steps with another cuff. When you're done with all the matching, go to the 3D window and drag the after freely to check all the stitching. Now, let's add some buttons to the shirt. Click the Accessories button, the fifth option on the Action toolbar in the 2D window. When you see more options expanded, choose Button. Choose your button style from the Properties panel on the right. To add a button, simply click on the appropriate button marking. If you have your custom buttons to add, you need to do some settings beforehand. We have made another video for the button uploading process. Check it out too. After adding all buttons, go back to the Accessories option on the Action toolbar and switch to the buttonhole option. Click on the appropriate markings to create buttonholes accordingly. We're not done yet. Go to the Action toolbar again and this time switch to the button connection option. Connect the buttons and buttonholes accordingly, so that when you run the simulation, the shirt will be buttoned up automatically. In this style, there are also buttons on the collar and the cuffs. Go through the same steps to add the buttons accordingly. Again, simply click on the appropriate marking to add a button. Switch to the buttonhole option and create buttonholes, and then switch to the button connection option to connect the buttons and the buttonholes accordingly. Another detail of a shirt to watch out is the folded collar. A collar piece usually forms an angle with the collar stand when it folds. And due to the fabric's softness, it does not form a sharp angle. There is usually a certain roundness to the fold. And we have a function for this purpose. First, select the folding curves on the collar piece. Go to the Inner Curve Properties section under the Properties panel on the right. Adjust the angle value to decide the angle between the collar and the stand after sewing. Then, adjust the roundness value to blunt the folding edge. To check the 3D skeleton for a more accurate simulation, you can enter the wireframe mold by clicking the first option on the viewing toolbar in the 3D window. Next, let's bring the pattern pieces closer to the afterbody. You can adjust the distance and the angle of the pattern piece with the gizmo. Drag the front body pieces closer to one another so that the buttons are just beneath the buttonholes. Then adjust the x-axis values to wrap them around the after. Try to view the pattern pieces from different angles. It may give you a more accurate adjustment. Finally, you're all set and the 3D simulation is ready. Have a look by clicking the play button in the 3D window or simply hitting the spacebar. When the simulation is finished, you can modify how it looks in 3D by holding the Control key and pick anywhere of the garment by clicking your mouse. Now that the garment shape is ready, let's move on to the fabrics. Select all the pattern pieces in the 2D window if your garment consists of one kind of fabric only. Go to the fabric panel on the right-hand side and choose from the collection of basic fabrics that we have prepared for you in the default folder. If you have your own scanned fabric files, go to the custom folder. You can simply drag and drop the files to the panel and create your custom fabric options. Click to select the desired fabric on the panel, and the fabric displays real-time on both the 2D pattern and the 3D garments. For a tartan shirt, it's important to match the plaid. Select the pattern piece you want to adjust the fabric. Right-click and choose Fabric Placer, or simply press Ctrl F. To move the pattern, hold the center of the fabric placer and drag accordingly. If the plaid size and scale is not exactly what you want, you can adjust the X and Y scales on the Properties panel. Or drag the fabric placer diagonally to change the plaid size. To obtain more variations, you can alter freely the fabric of specific pattern pieces to create different looks. With the HQ Render button at the bottom left corner of the 3D window, you can export this well-done rendering image and present your ideas in 3D with your team or clients. So now you have learned how to create a stand collar shirt style. Want to bring your team on board as well? Visit z-weave.com and let us know.